Hello and welcome to this week's Capsule Cast, Season 2021, Week 13. I am your host, Destiny, with no co-host this time, but special guest, Doorguard.
You could say I'm host and guest due
Yeah.
to situations, for sure.
And this week was was a fun one, but with the introductions out of the way, shall we get moving on to the sides that we got for this week?
Yeah, that works for me.
Alright, first off, here we have to give our little respects to Ader and Raccoon. They just didn't really have any help to do when they came in. Someone died before Raccoon came in. Someone selfishly tagged Ader in, which is what got them here. So, with that, let's get moving on to match one here. Cold Kingdom versus GT, and this match was honestly quite fun to watch. Cold Kingdom was in the lead for uh, quite a bit of time, thanks to Zarbon, but just goes to show when GT starts working, they pulled ahead with a win. And a lot of the characters did well, especially GT Goku did near 50k. Not normal for him this season. So what do you think?
Yeah, if you started the match, went to the bathroom, and came back, you would have thought that it was a different week because Monsters Arbon doing nearly two full characters on his own. You definitely think, hey, that's rough. GT's gonna have a hard time coming back because Arbon is supposed to be their worst character. So how are they gonna do this? But yeah, through just sheer willpower and some decent tagging as well, they managed to pull what looked like a really rough match into a pretty convincing win. There were some small things. 100% Frieza, whenever he misses any of his Nova Strikes, it's always bad because he needs to be hitting his B2s. It's what his build's meant for. And, there's lots of different things. I think another reason it was a surprising outcome is Shin Shenron, GT's arguably best character, was first up, and he was the first one Zarbon took down. So it kind of looked like they were out of it from the get-go. But yeah, GT, Goku, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, both characters that have had a very turmoil-filled season, all kinds of different controversies, Bulma and all that nonsense. It's been interesting for them. They've been more in the news than in the fights, so it's good to see them kind of pulling back into proper form per se. And it'll be interesting to see what they do from here because I know Vegeta's been struggling a lot with having like this is his AI kind of thing. It's been a lot of moving around and trying to figure it out. Though you got to worry a little bit for Cold here because I don't think they're looking for any consistency here because they still have a pretty big match against Muscle here to decide who gets the bye, and they kind of need to be getting any wins they can.
From what I remember of this match, normally one of their better characters, Cooler, starting to drop off a little because I don't even think he hit an ult this match.
Yeah, I don't think he threw too many B2s in general this match. He very strangely decided that melee was his main game today, and yeah, he was full build for B2s, so that's never good.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the very rare, for some reason, even though he's been built to do it all season, base GT Goku Spirit Bomb, which is obviously fantastic for them because that is an incredibly strong ult, and they've been waiting for it to happen for a while now, and he finally did it. And did a lot of damage.
I mean, whatever gets you the win. But I think that was all that's needed to be said for match one here.
Yeah, I mean, Cold. I think King Cold lost his position as #1 in the league off that this week, but just one bad week, so he can certainly make a comeback. Yeah, both these teams very much still in more than just fighting for. I think GT and Cold are actually fighting for more than just playoff spot, but position. They both have pretty good fights there, so it'll be interesting.
But Cold is also fighting for bye, and GT is just fighting to see if who will stay in their division this year. playoffs.
Yep.
Alright, with that, let's move on to match 2. Your match, Derp versus Buujins. And, well, this one was quite a fun one. It's quite back and forth for a bit. I just don't think anyone expected Spopovich to do 80k.
Yeah, I don't even know if back and forth is the right term. It looked like Derp had the game pretty set when they had taken out Majin Buu and Buujin and still had everybody alive because they had done lots of good tags to keep everybody to at least one bar. So pretty much everybody was still alive. So that was never like an issue there. But yeah, somehow, some way, Spopovich decided today of all days was his day to kind of make himself known, and he did so.
And hey,
and quite convincingly. But you got to give it Derp. Vegito still looking very strong. Obviously, very hard person to take on. You know, everybody did their job. Though Hercule was probably the one that suffered the most because he really only hit like a present bomb and a ult to get his damage.
yeah.
And if you look at like combo damage for him, especially, it really explodes because of that massive ult. But yeah, overall, just like everybody did kind of what you expect them to do. They just you know, even with the tag game, it just came down to I think Hercule getting basically just fully taken out by Spopovich, and then Supreme Kai almost in a similar was it Supreme Kai?
It was.
Yeah, it was Supreme Kai basically.
No, it was
That got
Hercule and
also
Kui actually. Supreme Kai was taken by Evil Boo.
Nah, Kui lost most of his health in that tank match against Majin Buu,
Oh, okay.
where they were like there for 10 minutes.
Vegeta lost most of his to Buujin, but actually, I still think even with how your team performed, because Derp had the tag game, it still came down within like a bar of damage left.
Yeah, still came down to half a bar left, so it's about as close as it can be. So yeah, certainly was a good match. Definitely recommend checking it out. It's in episode 1 as well, so pretty easy to get to, but
Yep.
yeah, definitely a good one to check out.
I think that's all I really need. If I remember, Derp's trying to make sure that they don't get into.
Yeah, they're trying to secure their spot still in
And-
playoffs. They're in a turmoil section.
And I'm pretty sure your team is secured to buy, or at least up there.
We're secured to be in playoffs.
Yeah.
The bye is still
Up in the air.
being fought for, depending on how these final weeks go. Because hybrids still doing their stuff.
Hybrids, Budokai, and androids. Kind of tough teams to do what you need to do for it. But let's get moving on to match 3: Rugrats versus Royals, our divisional. This one seemed this. I don't know if I have much of an opinion on this one other than what happened. But because like Gotenks came out showing the vitality of Gotenks. Either he comes out, does like his 3 characters worth after one of his fusees does something before, or he just comes out and doesn't do much. I think sadly the person that he had to come out against was Majin Vegeta for most of it, then Videl, who's kind of just doing her Videl thing on. But this still...
there's a combination of factors that hit him this match. I think it started off fine. I think Cell Jr. did fine and all. It's just I think they had it set for Kid Trunks to come out, and usually Kid Trunks does like 60k and then fuses, which makes, you know, things go a lot better. But unfortunately for them, Kid Trunks decided, or not Kid Trunks, I think someone decided to tag, probably Cell Jr., which caused Goten to come out earlier. And while that's maybe not bad, and Goten certainly didn't do too bad, but that is not kind of how they planned for it, and that's not how they build. And yeah, there's also all the boosts and other stuff that was going on to do things. But yeah, for sure, I think this was a match where it just goes to show the people are always like, oh, they should just use their fusion all the time. But yeah, but there's a lot of risks to that. Whereas
you
on Royal's side, they're
you
just
use
showing
two
off
of
the
your
stuff they have.
you use two of your best characters to make one fusion, and that fusion does poorly. You kind of wish you had the two characters separate, but I think even with that, it still came down to just Aurelia versus Majin Vegeta, both within like a bar. So it just shows you how
Yeah.
close it was, even with Gotenks kind of flippy flopping.
Yeah, he didn't even necessarily do bad. The issue with, and I think that Tosha's always talked about when talking about Gotenks, is it's never about him doing bad, but to have him come out, you need him to do spectacular, like consistently. It's never, oh, he can just kill like two people. It's like, if you're gonna do Gotenks, he has to like wipe the field. He needs to get that near elite status like every time to make it kind of worth it, because otherwise that's a lot of resources. Because it's not Kid Trunk's normal build, it's not Goten's normal build, because they have to have the same build. So you have to like mix and match. There's only so much you can do when mixing and matching.
And then even sometimes their fusees don't even want to fuse. Pretty sure one time Trunks almost died.
It's usually not that they don't. Yeah, Trunks usually fuses on the last bar, which is good for them since it gives them higher stacks and allows Trunks to do what Trunks does a little more often.
Yeah.
It's a weird one for sure. It's the delicate balance. Ours requires a lot of planning and setup.
And at Royals, they're still looking really strong with Majin Vegeta. Meta's been kind of on the weaker side as of recent, but we know that he can still pull off his own performance. Baby Vegeta is still doing his 40 and Videl nearly doing 50k, which is nice.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to matchups a lot of times, and obviously being a divisional, a lot of thought was put into these matchups and such, but even then, you never know. You just have to be ready for whatever happens.
Also, because of a match we'll get to later, these two are now locked into playoffs. So, I think they're just going for whichever position, even though I think Royals is ahead.
I think there's still the open. No, there's not the open fight for the bye, right? Everything's just kind of
because of Reds.
Yeah, so it's basically just positioning, but not really.
But shall we move
blame
on?
Cinema for that, for making it boring. Yeah, we can move on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. But moving on to match 4, we have Namek versus Androids. You want to kind of skip this match?
I mean, it's a pretty decent match. Both Namek's been on the up and up, where Androids has been on the down and down. So this was really just a match of Namek kind of had been doing some messing around, but they knew, hey, Androids, even when they're weaker, they're still a team of high stats, so we should take this somewhat seriously. And they did. And however, this was like the first time in a long time we've seen a lot of Androids characters kind of doing what we expect them to do. Funny enough, Cell was the one who struggled the most this match. Even then, I think it's because he was cleaning up, not really having a lot of health left to do.
He was cleaning up, but I think personally, what I looked forward to the most is early Piccolo, their FA, because they always said that they'd probably do him versus Namek, and just look at it, 50k. That's normally not something we see on early Piccolo, but they managed to do it.
I mean, you say that, but we haven't really seen much of early Piccolo in League in a hot minute. So
in a hot minute.
Those that don't watch testing, it's still even hard to say. So yeah, fun to see early Piccolo coming in, doing what people kind of figured he could do. I think another thing to point out was 19 got a really good week where he got Nuova Shenron as his matchup, which is great for him.
Instead of like one of the melee threats, or because they don't have an Android, so.
Yeah, and then you mix in that just like 16 actually showing up again too. That's a pretty big thing to point out, is 16 very much a character who's been really having a weird season, having a extraordinary game this time. So always got to point out that they had a lot of characters who have definitely been very much like, oh god, how, what, oh no, too
And
many people
are
breaking, and they
they
all
just
worked
gonna
today.
break this week? Are they not? But yeah, just going off by what you can see here, it's they worked, and hell, Cell didn't even do bad. He just only had cleanup. So
Yeah, everybody did their job today, so
mhm.
certainly a very good time for that party, though obviously as we were talking about the other party, the Green Party, maybe not as happy.
That's the Green Party.
Yeah, the Namekian Party, maybe not as happy. Didn't quite go as planned. Though, I think they're up against you guys this next week, so we'll see if that changes. But in terms of this match, a very much needed win for Androids, because Namek is in a lot better spot for staying in playoffs, where Namek is very much on a bad spot right now, where they need every little win to try to stay in. So this was an important one for them to keep playoff hopes alive.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of just looking at Namek's team. It kind of feels like because of like King and Nail, and sometimes Nova even breaking, they kind of have to rely more on Tambourine and Late Piccolo to do their stuff. And one of those people wasn't even in this week.
Yeah, there's definitely more than a few interesting like characters on Namek. I know the there's always a bunch of things you have to kind of wait and see with them, and they have a lot of characters that kind of come and go. Like last season, Nail was a lot different than this season, Nail, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But with that, shall we get moving on?
That works for me.
Alright, moving on, we have match 5, Budokai versus Muscle, and yeah, this was definitely a good match. Kinda closer at the end, but still not within like a bar difference. Uh as you can see, Raccoon not even doing 20k, that's only because of cleanup. And I think the only people that really struggled on Budokai was Nom and 18. But that just goes
Tom
to
definitely had his number called out today.
that also just goes to show how muscle characters can well be muscle characters and just threaten a team.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, anytime 13 in, it's a scary time, because he is he's super top of the league for a reason. So lot of challenges here, and it's going to be a rough one for Budokai. And with Androids winning, Budokai losing this week is very bad for them, because as we were saying, it's still very up for contention in North Kai outside of Buujin's. So I think, as you said, it seemed a lot more even, but after a period of time, it kind of fell into a lot. It just like slowly crept into a big league. We got to see, what was it, Muscle Trunks go off for a good while there. Usually when he
skipped the Muscle
transforms,
Trunks.
yeah, usually when you get Muscle Trunks, he's very bad. Usually Muscle Trunks is like, oh, lol, now he's just gonna
But
die. But he actually did a lot, which
he
is very bad for
he actually
Budokai.
was going to do his ult, but General Tao Dodum Pod him before, and since his ult had a little time before it all launches, it killed him before then. So we almost got a rare Muscle Trunks ult.
You'll see it 100 billion times. It's not a very, you even know what the ult is?
Super explosive wave.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
Yeah, but it's just rare to see Muscle Trunks do that well, in my experience.
Well, it's funny because he used to be, I think it's a banned form, or at least as a banned build from Super Saiyan days, so.
Pretty sure he's a banned starting form as well.
Yeah, that one I can't be quoted on because I'm not looking at the website right now,
But he used to be
that
very
could
good.
be the case. But at the very least, he is banned from certain builds from being too good in muscle form, so. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was great to see, even though Raccoon didn't have a lot to do, they didn't screw it up. I know, very newcomer for Team Muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Budokai still having some troubles. 18 still just being kind of funky with the spam. Don't know what it is, don't know what she's doing, but she's still just sometimes just super weird with when and what she decides to do. Everybody else has been doing kind of their stuff. Yamcha obviously been having a pretty decent season as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think Muscle is still fighting for that bye week.
Yeah, I think it's I think we said a good bit earlier. They're in it with Cold for who gets the bye week, though I think Muscle might be slightly edged up, though they do have a divisional that could totally change things around. So nothing's set in stone at the very least.
Yeah, just really it just comes down to these final weeks for these two teams. Like they really need it. Really need their wins. But with that, shall we get moving on?
I guess.
Alright. Moving on, we have the second division.
Oh, this is a good match. We should spend a while on this one.
Moving on, we have match 6, the second divisional of the week. We have Cinema versus Rez, and unfortunately, well, I wouldn't. Unfortunately, fortunately, whichever one you do, we broke the match 6 curse. We were the first loss on our home map in match 6 since I think the main season started.
Yep.
But going on, there were some good things. Garlic doing pretty even with Vegeta until Vegeta got to his last bar, transformed into Super Saiyan 2, yada yada. And then just did Vegeta things tagged. Jane kind of on a little bit more of a not. He wasn't on an EL build nor attack +2, so we just wanted to see what he could do for this, and also no boost since I think both teams are testing. But the one thing that I think surprised people is that Gogeta on a tank build did near 50k, which is just really goes to show what Gogeta can do with healing, alright?
Well, he's a pretty high stat character. I don't think people are necessarily surprised. I think they're more surprised at how long it took you guys to get to a tank build on him.
Yeah,
because
probably.
he's the only character in the game with a 1-bar finish sign, and I think that's been talked about a lot, especially by you guys. Yeah. He gets a lot of use out of his finish signs, and he likes to spam it because it only costs 1 blast stock, and his other one is instant transmission, which is very bad, so he tends never to use it. So, unsurprisingly, you put him on a build where he just stays around for a while, he's going to stay around for a while. And he has good B2s, obviously a charge like Super Kamehameha version is always good. Mix in with what's
Super Explosive
yeah,
Wave.
Super Explosive Wave, which is obviously incredibly good. Now his ult's kind of trash, but it's not like it's unusable or anything. It's just a rush with no tracking. So more often than not, he doesn't get to it anyways, so it hasn't mattered.
And also he gets to he just loves to melee.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty good all-rounder, that's for sure.
But moving on to the side of Rez here, they kind of did their normal Rez thing, beat a team with 3 characters. But do believe that Maju, most of his stats is because it was basically a defense Eternal Life versus defense Eternal Life. And then he did almost all of Turles. And then Selfless Shagging into Aider to finish off Turles.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some strangeness by our guys at Resurrected Warriors, but I wouldn't say it was anything too out of the norm.
And with this match, Cinema is the first team in the league this season to be eliminated, giving Resurrected Warriors, Royals, and Rugrats locked in for playoffs, and Rez, seeing how their score was, they are locked into the bye. it's gonna be fun to see what these teams have for the next following weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's as said, basically means we will have one team that is doing some in-season testing in cinema, though I think you could argue they've been doing that for a while now to try to get wins, and has not gone that way. So, just kind of how it is.
And with that, shall we get moving on to match 7?
Yeah, that works out.
All right. Moving on, we have.
Also, Restored Warriors is the only team that's guaranteed a bye.
Yeah.
There are teams like Buujins that are guaranteed into playoffs, but only Resurrect Warriors is guaranteed the bye right now.
Moving on, we have match 7, Sentai Squad and Earth Defenders. I think, at least near the start, this was very back and forth, because Saiyaman and Jace doing pretty well versus the characters that they had. But I think everyone kind of knew as soon as Mid Goku entered the field, he'd do what he needed to do to try to secure his team the win. But even with that, it was still very close at the end, within a bar of Mid, Vegeta, and Adult Gohan. It's basically a really good spammer versus a really good meleeer, and who got to do their stuff first, basically won at the very last part. Not to knock Sentai Squad though, Jace doing near 70k as we've seen Jace do in the past couple of weeks. Saiyaman looking better than what he usually was this season, even though we didn't really see a lot of him this season. I think Saiyawoman on her original build just not really performing that well, but it could also be just matchup wise, she just kind of got beaten out by the two Gokus.
Lots of things that could or could not have happened, and that could not have changed how the match went for sure. Don't think anything was like insanely surprising what happened in this match outside of maybe Saiyaman. I guess Saiyawoman doing bad and Saiyaman doing super good. It's been kind of the opposite of what's been happening. Did Earth Defenders win this?
Yeah, Earth Defenders won this because Mid Vegeta took out Gohan.
Yeah, it came down to a really close match at the end, but it was melee versus spam, and unfortunately, while we did get to see a few B2s out of Adult Gohan,
we also
did not
saw
hit any of them.
We also
so
saw
that
an
allowed
ult when he first
Vegeta.
came in, but Vegeta dodged it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He
Yeah.
threw out stuff, but he didn't hit stuff. So the curse that unfortunately happens when you have a super +2 versus an attack +2. You gotta have the character actually do their thing, and he was not doing it, unfortunately.
I'm also pretty sure Mid Vegeta actually spammed as much as Adult Gohan and actually hit as well.
Well, he didn't throw out too much. He basically just, when you're on attack +3 like he had, he basically just meleeed the crap out of him, and that's all that really mattered.
True. Yeah.
And unfortunately, while Adult Gohan did do some melee back, he was on a super +2 build, which is just not the same.
Which is, though Adult Gohan could be decent at melee, it's just not what he's built for.
It's not what he was built for this week. He has been built for it, though.
Yeah, in the past.
Well, this season, because it's the only time, but yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. It's been an interesting season. I think Sentai are still technically in it. There are still ways for them to make playoffs, so they're not officially out yet.
And Earth
certainly-
Defenders, I believe, is still fighting for playoff contention and probably bye contention as well, if they do make it.
Yes, I believe they also are still in a very strong spot for their team. But in terms of Sentai, who's been the notorious underdog of the season, or probably the famous underdogs, they are still in the ability to get in. However, with each loss, it looks a lot worse for them, that's for sure.
It also all comes down to next week, which is their divisional versus Derp.
Yeah, that's kind of, they have to win that to have any hope. So, yeah, that's going to be a big one.
Well, with that, shall we get moving on to match 8?
Yeah, we can get moving on.
Alright. With match 8, stats aren't in, so we don't have it, but from memory. This was kind of a good one. Kaiju, kind of Kaiju early, at least not doing that good with Scouter kind of going on as off and off build. Raditz kind of just getting beaten out by one of the Gohans, or I think Trunks was it. Yeah. But Roshi kind of just stepping up, trying to get his team a win. But sadly, one Roshi versus most of hybrids is not enough, especially if you're not trying to do a tag game with Nappa in the back. Sadly, Nappa being the last character, having Savior is not really the best outcome. But not to knock hybrids, they did very well. Future did.
What you're talking about? That's a pretty good outcome to have your last guy coming back in with Savior. I think the issue was that they, yeah, I think he went 8th and like immediately died, and there's a few other small issues for him that were certainly on the rougher side, such as not limited to the fact that they didn't even make Teen Gohan come out. I'm pretty sure.
No, Teen Gohan did come out. It was just on the last.
He didn't have to do much.
It was the last 2 bars of Nappa.
Yeah, he would have been in the rest in peace stats if we had his stats. But it's pretty much assumed he had bad stats.
Yeah.
For this week.
But all I know is that they did make Teen come out, but not to knock hybrids. I think they did extremely well this week. Remember, it was Sword first versus Scouter, and Sword kind of just handled him.
That and Scouter's on kind of return to this defense +2 one, which has shown really good results, but it's been kind of funky. Yeah, it was a pretty decent match to start, but yeah, it definitely fell off pretty fast, unfortunately for Kaiju. They're not out of it, and they still get certainly good shot of being in playoffs, but certainly did not help this loss. And hybrids, this is allowing them to stay in the fight for the bye for North Guy.
Sorry, family. Yeah, kind of good match, and we talked about hybrids and Kaiju's place in it. Sorry,
yeah,
family came in. All right.
Can move on to the next slide if you are ready.
I'm ready. So moving on, we have tier list and the and predictions, and at least of the stats that we know of, only one near elite, and it's your boy Spopovich.
I wouldn't even say nearly. Certainly it's closer than most, but 80k not quite.
I normally do near elite for my 80k plus for my stuff, but
and he was literally like at 80k, so
yeah. But really just tier lists kind of show what's been going on. The right tier list is only up like the past 5 weeks, so. But moving on to predictions, we have match 1, Budokai versus RW. And not to knock Budokai, I think their team is fairly consistent at times, but it's RW, so what are you gonna do? They take out people with 3 characters, and it differs on the 3 characters all the time.
Especially rough for Budokai because they really are needing everyone they can get. So it's gonna come down to, can they pull out a second upset of the season? They certainly are a strong team, so they very much could. I'm not going to count them out at all, but yeah, I think it's pretty simple to give it to Resurrect Warriors, because while they are doing some testing, they're not testing on their big hitters like in Vegeta. So he's still doing what he does, which is obviously very scary and very hard to deal with.
Early Goku and Vegeta still basically being the same that they have been all season. Moving on, oh wait, yeah, 2-0 to Reds. Moving on, we have Cinema versus Namek, and some insight. Gogeta will be out as he had locked bench because we benched Janempa versus you guys. We are removing the Broly's Ring from Garlic, putting Turles on a melee build, and all that fun jazz. So, of course, I'm gonna have to give it to my own team, but not to knock Namek, especially with late payload coming in. I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, though I'm pretty sure they're also going to be testing because they know. Um, so there's pretty high chance that this is just going to be like a super coin flippy match based on what team kind of does what. So I don't know. I'll give it to you guys because I've seen some of the builds and I'm kind of hoping they do well. And I'm hoping to see some cool shit. But at the same time, I mean, it is still, after all, Namek, and Namek has been doing quite well this season. So kind of hard to count them out really in any match. So it's just going to be a fun one overall. And I'm hoping that it turns out that way as well.
Moving 2-0 to Cinema. Moving on, we have Hybrids versus GT, and I think this will be a little bit of a close one because GT kind of trying to go back on their hot streak of wins. Hybrids trying to get out of the three-man tie that they have with Budokai and Androids. So I don't think I think this will be a no holds bar, but I'm gonna have to give it to Hybrids.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Hybrids as well. Even though I don't want them to win, I need GT to win preferably to make my life easier this week. Yeah, I mean it's pretty hard not to see them winning with how strong they have been, and this is going to be kind of a rough match in that sense as well for both teams. They're both gonna have to put a lot out there, but Hybrids have been looking very scary lately, very much in a good groove where they're almost looking like they don't have to care, like they're just straight up kind of waltzing through a little bit right now. So it is scary times. So we'll have to see though.
Also seems that as a recent, well, with GT Goku now doing what he's intended to, I think it's a little bit too late for him.
I wouldn't say that. I would just say that Hybrids are a very strong team, and GT is a decent team, but Hybrids have been on a roll, and that always makes it a lot harder when the team you're going up against is doing more than just well, but they're also on a roll. So,
alright, so that's 2-0 to Hybrids, but moving on, we have our first divisional, Sentai versus Derp, and I personally think with her coming back in, and I'm pretty sure they'll have Jace and Adult Gohan. I'm going to have to give this to Sentai, not to knock Derp though. They still have a pretty decent team with Vegito, Hercule, and Salza, with Queen Supreme Kai still doing their own thing.
Yeah, this one's going to be real weird. Both teams doing pretty decent coming into this. Both have had maybe not always wins, but both had some pretty decent performances in the matches prior. So this is gonna be a real close one, and both teams are gonna have some Zenny to throw, and it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. I'm gonna have to I think it would be awesome for Sentai to win, but if you want me to be real, I've gotta go with Derp. I think Derp's just looking a little more together. I think they're gonna have a little stronger squad coming in, and I think it's just gonna be weird because Sandman and Seawoman have been rough. I mean, really everybody outside Jace has been kind of on the up or down. Jace has been the only one who does 50k every week, and that's just rough.
Yeah.
So in that stance, I'm giving it to them, to Derp here.
So it's 1-1 for Sentai and Derp. But moving on, we have Rugrats versus Androids with Cybermen and 17 coming back in. Both. I have to quickly remember. I think will be a close one. Also, depending on if they bring Gotenks.
Obviously, it's Rugrats, man. Cybermen's get the underwater bonus, right?
Well, that's not their home map.
And?
True. But no, I'm actually going to have to give it to Androids. I think if Rugrats do Gotenks again, that he's still a 50-50, and then their other characters don't, other than maybe Aurelie, don't really seem to be doing up to par, while Androids might have found what they needed and basically just will have their characters work for the rest of the season.
I don't know. I'm gonna give it to Rugrats. I think they're a little less all over the place. I think androids have very high ceilings as always, but Rugrats have been a little more in the groove at this point in the season, which is very important. So I'm gonna give it to them.
Alright, so that's another 1-1. Moving on, we have ED versus Royals, and again, another close one, at least in my opinion, which is hard because I think who's basically going to burst down people first? Is Tien and Midku going to burst down people first, or is Majin, Vegeta, and Slug going to burst down people first? I don't really have a vote for this one. But if I have...
I'm gonna give it to Royals. I don't know. I think both teams are pretty strong, but I don't know. Something about it feels like Royals might sneak it out. Though I think you could very easily say either team and probably be fine.
Yeah, this one's more up in the air. 1-0 to Royals, but again, more up in the air. You can make an argument for both teams. Moving on, we have the second and last divisional of the season, which is Muscle versus Cold, and I'm personally going to give it to Muscle. They've been more in the groove and have consistency instead of Cold.
I'm gonna give it to Muscle. Yeah, I want Cold to win this. I think it would be better for Cold to win this. A little more interesting bowl for Cold to win this, but Muscle is just scary. Scary. So I'm gonna give him that.
2-0 going to Muscle. And last but not least, we have Kaiju versus Buujin. And Kitabu's coming back in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm personally going to have to give this to your team. I just think Kid Buu having his innate or Kaiju just been kind of not having as much success with their characters as of recent, and with your other characters like Spokovich and Manjibu's been just always kind of hitting his ult, at least, that I'm going to have to give this to you guys.
Yeah, this is gonna be a interesting one. I think if Kaiju had won this, it would be a little harder to predict, or won last week, it would be a little harder to predict, but that was kind of a rough one. Obviously, I kind of have to give it to my own team. It is my team after all. So that is kind of the way it rolls when doing your own team.
Yep. And with that, on video on Capsule Cast, there's the link to the Twitter, their Discord, and the website down below. We don't bite, trust us. Maybe Tony, but
you don't join my team, man.
Yeah, he needs more members, guys. But with
every
that,
team needs more members. Just join the Discord. Come chat. Come join us.
Yeah, discuss builds. Discuss which character you like.
All right, close it out.
But with that, I have been your host, Destiny,
and I've been Doorguard,
and we'll be seeing you next time.
Have a good one.